Hey guys, Jason here. Welcome to the first tech video on the randomness of Jason McDaniel. Well, technically, I did do a video about the random hole puncher I found, but I don't really call it is sort of a tech review. So yes, I did do a tech video on here. But so yeah, but this is this channel is going to be for tech now. Uh, So, more tech videos to come. But originally, I was going to talk about all this. There was a lot that I was going to talk about, and I was going to put it all in one big old video. And then, but if I do that, then I start going on tangents. I start losing my train of thought, uh, and then everything just goes to shit. But so this is just going to be a series of maybe probably about 3 videos. And what am I going to talk about? Well, in this first video, I'm going to talk about my experiences with Mac OS. And then in the second video, I'm going to go into what all the things that brought me up to this point, why I decided to switch, and why I don't like using Windows that much. And then in the third video, I'm going to go over basically a history of Windows from 2022 onward. Well, I'm going to say 2023 onward, when Windows 11 came out and when Windows 10 started going out of support, and the whole thing of how Windows went to shit and why Windows is going to shit and why, people are switching, finding alternatives, and all that stuff. So, 3 videos. But this first video is going to be my experience on Mac OS. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, the Mac that I have is the MacBook Air 13-inch with the M5 chip, 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage. Didn't really need that much because all I'm really doing, I just need something for music production. I need something to maybe run a couple VMs on, and something to do college work on, because I'm going to be starting college at the end of August, and so I needed something that was not a Windows laptop, but that was not an iPad, which I'll get to in the second video, to do college. So, I will say that the M5 chip so far is an ARM chip because it's Apple Silicon, but it's a fanless laptop, and this is probably the most efficient laptop I've had. It runs very, very, very cool. Like when I'm watching, even when I'm recording this video, it's sort of warm. It's sort of gotten warm, but it's definitely not hot to the touch if I were to do this on a Windows laptop, it would probably be a little hot. Even on my desktop, it would be a little hot. But it's just sort of warm. And if I'm watching YouTube, it doesn't even, there's not even that much heat at all. It's sort of just room temperature. So it is great for being fanless. Has the Apple M5, chip, that 10-core GPU and the CPU, and 16 gigs of unified RAM. But for what it is a great laptop. It is the most premium laptop I've had. It is the most expensive laptop I've ever bought. Because I bought Windows laptops in this price range, but they've never ran this efficient. Yes, my Lenovo ThinkPad, E14 Gen 6, which pretty much had the same specs, only it had an AMD, and it was on the x86 architecture. It had an AMD Ryzen 5 with 6 cores, 12 threads, but it had 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs SSD. And yeah, it ran pretty efficient, but if you were doing pretty high intensive tasks, the fans would start to kick in and it would get hot. So um so it never ran as cool as this laptop does. Now if I were to push this laptop like to the absolute limit, yes, it would get hot. But if I'm just like under a normal CPU load like this, sort of recording something, or if like I'm on a video call watching YouTube, like if I'm doing that, it is no problem. This laptop can handle it at all things. Um, Now with with like web browsing, it is extremely fast. Nothing lags. Opening up things on this laptop, it like everything just works. Um, unlike a Windows machine, uh, sometimes it just lag for no reason. Especially when I open up Task Manager, what I do like about this thing, as well, is that I use Activity Monitor, because that's Mac's version of Task Manager. But Activity Monitor, basically, Activity Monitor never lags when I try to use it. Task Manager, for whatever reason, even on Windows 10, which I'll talk about in the second video, it always lagged. Every single time. Task Manager would always lag. I don't know why, but it just does. Every time I would use it, it would lag. Now, to end a process or to force quit a task, on Windows, you wouldn't need, or you would need to use Task Manager, like if you were using a computer like regularly, if you had sight like with a mouse. With NVDA, I could download an NVDA add-on that would allow me to force quit processes through Task Manager, um, or not using Task Manager rather. But if I wasn't doing that, then I would have to use Task Manager. But look what I could do on the Mac. I could just press. Well, there's two ways I can do it. I can go to the Apple menu, and there's
Menu, 10 items.
and I like this. I like the Apple menu because it just has everything sort of in there. Um,
System settings, App Store, recent items, submenu.
System settings, App Store, recent items, force quit, and that's the option we want. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do
Closing menu.
Close the menu with escape, and I'm going to do Command Option Escape, and this is going to bring up a dialog.
Authentication, force quit applications, system dialog, force quit applications. If an app doesn't respond for a while, select its name and click force quit. You can open this window by pressing Command Option Escape. Table, row 2 of 4, ops, selected.
And then I can select an app that I want to force quit. Right now it's OBS is selected. OBS is selected. And so
Open this window by pressing Command Option Escape.
it says you can open the window by pressing Command Option Escape.
Force quit default button.
And then
Force quit default button.
if I click on force quit, it's going to bring up another dialog.
Alert dialog, cancel button. Do you want to force Ops Studio to quit? You will lose any unsaved changes.
And it says, do you want to force OBS Studio quit? And I can force quit it from right there. I didn't even need to go into Activity Monitor on the Mac, or if it was Windows, it would be Task Manager. I'm going to click
Force quit cancel button.
cancel.
Table, no selection. Closing dialog, table, no selection. You can open this window by pressing Command Option Escape. Force quit dim default button. Force quit dim default
And
button. You
then-
can open table, force quit app zoom, minimize, dim close button.
Close.
Ops, controls window, stop recording button.
And that would allow me to force quit an application without needing to go into the Task Manager. So that is very, very, very simple. That's what I like about the Mac. Voice-over navigation, it is very, very solid. This is one reason I used to not like Mac, because I would use Control Ops. I hated the whole idea of using Control Option everything to navigate. But now that I've gotten used to it, I sort of like it. I liked how everything is grouped. I can also use Tab if I want for quick nav. But I will say that navigation on Windows and even Linux is better than this. But I sort of like it now. I've sort of gotten used to it, and the more I've used macOS, the more I like it. That's one of the reasons I used to hate macOS, because I hated the layout, I hated the navigation, I hated everything how it worked. But switching apps is sort of just the same thing as Windows. I can do, instead of Alt Tab, it's the same key, but it's Command. It'd be Command Tab,
Finder.
Finder.
Brave browser. Tailscale.
I have Tailscale, my VPN, Brave,
Ops.
and then OBS.
Ops. Controls. Windows.
So,
Stop recording.
okay.
Finder. Finder. Applications. Windows.
I can just switch Windows just like that. It is the same thing as Windows and Linux.
Ops. Ops.
And then, what else I can do is to quit a program. The way that Mac works, it has programs and it has Windows. It has programs and it has Windows. With Windows, because Windows are just basically like tabs, sort of like in File Explorer with Windows. But there's basically just like tabs. But what I can do is
Finder. Brave browser.
here,
Tailscale.
I'm gonna go to Tailscale,
Tailscale. Window. Edit button.
and I can close the window that it's on, by doing Command W.
Close window.
Now the window's closed,
Tailscale has no windows.
and if you see, VoiceOver just said Tailscale has no windows. Tailscale, the app, is still open, but I closed all the Tailscale windows. But to quit an app, you do Command Q, which just quits the app like this.
Quit Tailscale. Ops. Controls. Window. Stop recording.
And now Tailscale has quit. And so, what I like about this, Windows, there will be Windows open and stuff. On Windows, and even on Linux, if you wanted to close a window, you would go to the, if you're navigating with mouse, you could go to the context menu, close, exit, but you could do the same thing on Mac, but like, when you're navigating using a keyboard, with Windows, it was Alt F4. You did Alt Tab, and then you could do Alt F4. Which, the more I think about it, the more I like Command Q instead of Command F4 or Alt F4, which is basically the same thing as Command. Because basically on a Mac, Command is the same thing as Control, but it's also sort of the same thing as Alt, but Option is also Alt. It's so weird how the keys work, and how keyboard shortcuts work. So that's another thing that I'm still learning on Mac, is how they exactly work, because they're so different from Windows and Linux. And that's going to really lead to another thing. When I'm trying to use VMs, how am I going to key map all that? To make sure all my shortcuts work properly the way that they need to. Which is another thing I'm going to talk about. But Command Q I sort of like better, because it just represents more of what I'm doing. With Command Q, I'm quitting a program. With Alt F4, it's sort of like, okay, Alt, why specifically F4? Why specifically that function? So the more I think about it, the more I like Command Q and Command W to close windows and programs. But to open, I love opening applications. I can just use Spotlight to search. I have them on my. I can also have
Finder. Finder. Applications. Window. Ops. Application.
Right now I'm in my applications folder, so that's where all my applications are. But I can also do Spotlight.
Spotlight. Search. Window.
Type
Search text field.
in settings.
DS.
I can also do this. Well, no, I'm not going to type in settings. Let's just type. I'm going to type in text edit.
Finder. Applications. Window. Ops. Application. Text edit. Open window. List new table. No selection. Add keyboard focus.
And it just opens up text edit. Because on the settings, you can just go from system settings from the Apple menu, which that's what I love too. And that's another thing about Windows. I hate how the settings are laid out, where there's categories and there's like all these sort of categories, and you got to go for that, then you got to go for a subcategory. It's sort of like that on the Mac for certain settings, but with Windows, it just seemed more like clunky to navigate. And then if I wanted to go change more like advanced sort of options, then I would have to go into the control panel, because before with Windows 7 and below, you just had the control panel. With Mac, you had the control center, but it's only for like basic stuff. That's why it's called a control center. But but with the control panel, when Windows 10 and Windows 11 came out, they tried to switch pretty much everything to the settings app, which they sort of did, but there's still some things that you gotta go into control panel for. And even with like Windows 11, it's still the case. Like, they've tried to put more things into the system settings app, but then there's still like things to go into control panel. So it's all just very complicated. But with this Mac, you can just, well, let me click text edit.
Finder, applications, window,
I'm just gonna go
Apple menu, 10 items.
to
Finder, file menu, 23 items. Apple menu, 10 items. System settings listed.
system settings.
Closing menu, ops, application, systems, now window, sidebar table, row 10 of 37, general, selected.
It brings me to general, which is the default. But if I do control option shift down arrow,
The sidebar table, row 10 of 37, general, selected.
now
general,
I'm in my
1,
categories.
Battery, PC network, Bluetooth.
And it's sort of just like the iPhone. It's sort of like any other Apple product. If you've ever used an iPad or an iPhone and had to navigate the system settings app, it's sort of similar to this. You have, and even the Apple Watch, I will say too.
Wi-Fi, Jason McDaniel, Apple account.
At the top, you have Jason McDaniel, your Apple account,
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, network,
VPN.
VPN,
Back, general, accessibility, appearance, icons, desktop, displays, menu bar.
and it's just easy to navigate. I can just go out of all one of these
Display.
options,
Desktop and dock.
just do desktop and dock,
Out of sidebar table, vertical splitter, desktop and dock, scroll area.
and then go into desktop
Desktop
and
and dock, scroll
dock.
area. 74 items, heading dock.
And it's just right there. It's not like Windows where I have to go through, system, for example. Then I have to go to power and sleep. Then I have to go through all these options. And of course, with Windows, you could search. With Mac, you can search too. But still, I always never liked Windows search. I've always hated Windows search. But with Spotlight search, it always seems to bring up everything I want. Because Spotlight is just basically like Apple's start menu. And it's basically like, what is it called in Linux? I don't remember what it's called in Linux, but it's basically the same thing. Quit settings.
Quick finder, applications, window, ops, app.
Now, I'm going to talk about files. Well, actually, before I talk about files, before I get on that tangent, I'm going to talk about connectivity, particularly wired port connectivity. I do like that the Mac has the headphone jack. I do like that they haven't got rid of that, because if I need to connect headphones for like music production and stuff, which I'm still learning how to use GarageBand, because I'm used to using GarageBand on the Mac, or I mean not on the Mac, on the iPad, and I'm used to that layout, but I'm still trying to learn it more on the Mac, because I've used Logic before on an iPad, and that's how I can compare GarageBand on the Mac. It seems more like Logic, which I can also use Logic if I wanted, but I've always been used to GarageBand. But I can also use Reaper. I've downloaded Reaper on Windows before, but I've never really... I played around with it, but I've never created anything serious with it. But I can also use that on the Mac. Download Osora, which is the accessibility add-on extension for it. But what I do like about this is this right here is just a MagSafe connector, and I can connect this charger right here. So now these two Thunderbolt 4 ports, which are USB-C, I can use them for charging if I wanted, but I can also use them for data transfer or anything like that. And of course, on the right side, you have the headphone jack, where I can plug in headphones or whatever I want. The only thing I don't like about this is if I wanted to use anything that connected to regular USB A, and not USB C, then I would need adapters, or dongles to be able to do that, because it's not like a Windows machine where it just automatically comes with USB ports that I can just plug things into. Which I do like the MagSafe charger, because I can just use, if I need to use the two USB-C ports, then they're available. And it's just that simple. I can use the two Thunderbolt 4 ports because they're lightning fast. But now I'm going to talk about files and navigating files on my computer. So with Linux, you have the file manager. You can also navigate through a terminal. You can do that through a Mac OS. And another quick thing is virtual machines. UTM. I've tried UTM. I really do like it. I just haven't actually gotten a virtual machine to work on it. But I do like that you can virtualize ARM processors, which is Apple Silicon, that runs off of ARM architecture. But you can also emulate x86/x64 processors, and even go back to PowerPC if you wanted. So I do like that. But back to files. I just wanted to bring that up so I didn't forget about that. But back to files. With Mac, I like that everything is just in the Finder. You have
Numbers application. Actions
right now I'm in applications, but I can go into
New collection. One item selected. Vertical sidebar table. Row 422. Applications selected.
but I can go into this folder
Sidebar table. Row 422.
and we
Applications.
have
Favorites. Share recents.
recents, which Windows has that, but it has quick access, and sometimes it just never works. So that's why I like Mac recents, because with Windows, I would always have to go into File Explorer, which would lag sometimes. File Explorer always lagged. Finder never lags, it just works. Installing apps, like, also too, like, downloading Windows, I sort of had to get used to the way that Mac installs it. It's sort of, I compared the Mac, the app installation process, installing third-party apps on your Mac, more like Linux than I do Windows, because with Windows, it's always a guided experience, like a guided sort of installer. But with Mac, all you have to do for most things, depending on how they set it up, they do have guided flat packages that you just that are sort of more like Windows installers. But for most things, it's just a DNG disk image. You download that, you save that wherever you want, and then you copy that to your applications folder, and then boom, it's installed. You just launch the application. Or if you're clicking a mouse, you just drag it to your applications folder, but I can't do that, so I have to copy it to my applications folder. So it's sort of more like a Linux install process, but with Linux, it's more of like, you have the software, because with Mac, you have the App Store, of course, but with Windows, you had the Microsoft Store, but I've never found myself using it. I've never found myself, like, actually using the Microsoft Store. But with Linux, you install it using the terminal, or download the file, install it using a terminal. But with Mac, it's sort of like that. But it's not like Windows, where you have to execute the .exe file, then you have to install it, then you have to do all that. It's just boom, copy it to your applications folder, and then boom, and then you launch it for the first time. But what I'm gonna say,
Share.
is
Action
you got
available.
recent,
Favorites
shared,
expanded. Four items equals. Applications left desktop.
favorites,
Actions
desktop,
available.
applications. They're all just right there, and then you can go
Out of sidebar table.
out of
Vertical
that,
splitter. Icon new collection.
and then you go into
Scrape
desktop,
browser application.
just like
Actions
that.
available.
Control, control option, left arrow, right arrow, shift up arrow to go out of it. Control option, shift down arrow to go back into it. And it's just easy as that. And then
Icon new collection. Status bar. Status bar. Icon vertical splitter. Sidebar table. Row 5 of 20. Sidebar table. Row 5 documents. Dump locations. Icon drive. Jason. Macintosh HD. Jason.
Jason,
Actions available.
Macintosh
Action
HD.
Out of sidebar table. Vertical splitter. Scroll area.
Go in here.
Scroll area. 5 items. List new table.
And
No selection.
then
List new kind
in
size button.
here,
Name. Ascending order button. Group. The name. Ascending order button. Go up image. Go up image. Out of name. Ascending bottom size kind. But list new table. No selection.
and then I can go
List
down
new table. No
into
selection.
here.
Name. Application folder collapsed. Level 1.
And there's the folders for stuff. So
Out of list new table. Scroll area.
out of there.
Vertical sidebar table. Row 10 of 22. Jason. Selected.
Now, the only thing I don't like, is that, at least with Mac, I haven't found this yet, but with Windows, I don't know about Linux that much either, but at least with Windows, I loved the run dialog. I loved just being able to press Windows R and being able to type a document or file, the name of the file or the name of a program, and just boom, just pressing enter and it just executes whatever. Now, what I can do with Mac is I can open up a folder and then type in like a folder into it, but it's not like the same as applications. With applications, I have to do Spotlight search, which is basically start menu, but a run dialog, that's why I like the run dialog a lot, because it was basically like a command prompt. I called it like a terminal sort of hybrid, where I can type in files that I wanted to get to, but then, or a folder, but then if I wanted to browse that folder using a graphical user interface, I can do that, because it would just, because I would type it in the run dialog, press enter, and then it would just open it up in File Explorer, or if it was an app, it would just open up the app. So that I missed that about Windows, because I used it a lot for like typing in downloads, like cause I could just do Windows R, type in downloads, press enter, and boom, it took me right to my downloads. With documents, I could do Windows R, documents, then it just take me right to documents. But with Mac, there is an icon in the dock. Like if I go into dock,
Finder open.
by pressing Control Option D, then
Apps. Safari message. Mail. Mac. Photo. Face. Phone. Calendar. Contact.
I
Reminder.
can
Notes. 30.
Control Option
TV.
right
Music. Keynote.
arrow
Number. Status.
and
Apps.
go
Icon. Distance.
down,
Separate. Break. Quick time clear. Ops. Open. Text edit. 20 separator. Downloads. 29 of 30.
and I can just open up downloads from here.
Got it.
But
Crash. 30 of 30.
but it was just much easier on Windows just to type Windows R downloads. Now, I can do that. I can navigate files doing that on the Mac, but it's more like a Linux terminal, because a lot of Mac commands are also Linux commands, because Mac is a Unix-based operating system just like Linux. But it is not like the Windows, where you can type in where you can do Windows R, or because the thing with Windows too, I can even execute command line utilities from there, from the run dialog. For example, if I wanted to execute diskpart or shutdown.exe, could execute just that straight from there. So that's what I like about Windows. It could run dialog could be used as a command line sort of tool, but it's also used as a way to get to a graphical user interface. But with Mac and Linux, when you're using a terminal, it's a complete command line interface, and there's and you're not really in a graphic user interface. So, say for example, if I wanted to browse files, let me go to terminal.
Downloads, 20 separator.
I can't do Spotlight from there.
Spotlight search, window, search text field,
Terminal.
control terminal, Jason, ZSH, 120 times 30 window, shell text last login, Monday, June 29, 10, 43, 12 on 000, at keyboard focus. Jason, Mac, 0%.
And for the people that are tech nerds like here, I will say that this shell is a ZSH shell, unlike the default shell on Windows, which is a bash shell. This is ZSH. I can change the shell to bash by using a simple command, but that's another video. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do these are basically the same. If I were to do these commands on Linux, they're the same commands. If I do pwd print working directory, then I can just do pwd.
Jason, Mac, 0%.
Then it prints the working directory. I can do ls, which will list the files, which is just more complicated because by this time, if I terminal like interfaces, like command line interfaces are great for this purpose. I do like command line interfaces, but let's just say like I'm trying to navigate like to a file. By this time, I could have already done it with Finder, or if I was on Windows, I could have just done run dialog. But I could do ls here, list files. Like command line interface, like they are useful for like servers and like doing commands with running like sysadmin stuff. But here for just trying to find a file, like power user mode, you can do it, but then you have to type in a command to open the file too. At this point, just use a GUI, but do ls.
New applications, documents, library, music, desktop, downloads, movie, pictures, VirtualBox, CM, Jason, Mac, 0%.
This is all the subfolders that are in the default directory that we're in. So I'm going to do cd, change directory. I'm going to go into, I'm going to do cd downloads. Yeah, let's do downloads.
Oh, Jason, Mac, 0%.
And then we're going to do ls again.
New applications, documents, library, music, desktop, downloads, movie, pictures, VirtualBox, CM, Jason, Mac, 0%.
Wait, did I not change the downloads? CD downloads. Downloads.
Jason, Mac, 0%.
Alright, now we're in downloads. ls.
New Brave browser. EMD IMD underscore 1245. Mobile button 26.04 desktop ARM 64. ISO 2026 underscore Mac OS EMD mix 2.5.6 browser. EMD UTM. EMD Discord. EMD Ops Studio 32.1.2 Mac OS Apple. EMD VirtualBox 7.2.10 174,163 browser 64. EMD Deep 6. App source code. MP3 Deep 6.7.1 Mac. Zip scale 1.98.5 Mac OS package. Jason Mac downloads %.
And it just shows all the files that I downloaded. Now I can open up files from here. I can see the types of files. I'm not going to do all that right now. This is not really a terminal video. That's another sort of thing to learn commands. But while I'm in here, I'm going to show you my favorite command. Or actually, I'm just going to close this window.
Close window.
And then go back.
Ops, controls window, stop recording, spotlight, search window, search text field blank. Ops, control, Jason, ZSH, 129.
So I can just be back in the default directory and then I'm going to do say, and then you just type in whatever you want to say. I don't know if this is going to work with OBS because of the way the audio works, but I'm just going to do this is a test.
This is a test.
Oh, it did
Jason,
work.
Mac, 0%.
Okay. When you do this. Don't.
4. E. L. L. P. F. E. U. S. P. F. E. 2. S. S. Greater than. Enter text space. Ops, controls window, stop recording button.
Let me do this again.
Spotlight, search window, search text field blank.
Terminal.
Ops, control terminal, Jason, ZSH, 1.
Do not forget to like.
P. F. E. New line.
Do not forget to like and subscribe.
Jason Mac, 0%.
say do not forget to
Two.
like
P.
and
F. E.
subscribe
D.
and
F. E.
leave a comment on
S.
this
D. I.
video.
New line.
Do not forget to like and subscribe, and leave a comment on this video.
Jason Mac with air %.
Okay, that's the say command. I love having fun with it. I've got it to say like inappropriate stuff that I'm not gonna do on YouTube, but have fun with it. If you like terminals and you like commands, this probably would become your favorite command. Because it is fun. It is fun to mess with. But yeah. So files. And terminal and all that. I'm gonna do Command Q. I keep wanting to say Alt to get out of here.
Ops. Controls window. Stop record.
So now I'm going to talk about OBS. And this is where I've had the worst experience that you can say. OBS has worked really good on the Mac for like adding sources. It's actually more accessible than Windows. With NVDA, I can never get sources like webcams or screen capture to actually work. Like, I would try to add it and just would not be accessible. But with Mac, I could do it. But then, this is where we start having problems. Mac, for whatever reason, just does not like when you try to add too many sources or remove sources, and it makes OBS crash. Now, I've seen videos talking about how you can resolve this issue by, instead of downloading the regular DNG disk image like you would usually do, you just go into a terminal, you would install it Linux style, you would install, what's that program? Homebrew, I think it's called. You would install that, and then install OBS directly through a terminal. But I didn't want to do that because I was trying to record a video, I was trying to get it to work, and I was getting very, very mad, and I didn't want to have to worry about a fucking terminal, like, right then. But, yeah. So, my experience of OBS, it's been very mixed. I did do a stream on the main channel for my birthday stream, and I actually did find that I did like it. But I didn't, I will say, though, that I didn't, yeah, I liked it, and, like, the stream performance was actually very good. It never lagged. It was 5 to 10 seconds from real time. But FaceTime, I can never get to work. Like, FaceTime would always work on Windows, but even then, a lot of times I wouldn't use it on Windows. I would just go on a phone because Apple, it's been 5 years since you've had the web version of FaceTime and you haven't added screen sharing capabilities. Like, why hasn't that happened yet? So, but that's what I do like about the Mac, is that you can screen share, I can send messages, I can just do all that through whatever. But the problem I've had, I think I need to install like a third-party plugin on OBS to actually get FaceTime audio to work on a Mac, because it doesn't route any of the FaceTime stuff like it would route any other desktop audio. It doesn't route that through my Mac to go out from OBS. Like, if I were to on Windows, there's no problem. It just does it. I don't know what video calls or whatever, it's using some sort of different audio protocol, but it's just that doesn't work. Fuck, sorry, I'm getting a call. It just doesn't work. I don't know why it doesn't work, but it just fucking doesn't. So next time when I do a stream, I'm going to try and see if I can get FaceTime to actually work correctly. But, I'm just gonna say that Mac, when it comes to all the different things about it, I like a lot of the experience of Mac, using Mac OS, and it has been very, very good. Um, I will say that there are some things like I miss about Windows, like navigation wise, but like everything else, besides the whole OBS issue or the OBS issues, I haven't tried mixing on Mac OS yet, which I'm gonna try mix. I might try that soon, um, but everything else like has been very, very, very stable and has just worked. Um, it starts up fast, it boots up fast, Touch ID just works. Oh yeah, that's another thing I wanted to talk about before I ended this video. Power. Windows laptops, I've always had power issues with, like, standby-ish, like, you put a Windows laptop to sleep, and then it just takes, like, 15 seconds to wake up. It's crazy. Like, it just, it's like it's coming out of its, like, shutdown stage, and you didn't even shut it down. You just put the thing to sleep. And then, especially with newer laptops with smart standby, I hate it so much. It wastes battery life, and that's another thing I'll say. Battery life on this laptop is great. Like, I've never had to, it's like, I could go all day using this laptop without charging it, and then the next day it would be, low on battery and then charge it. But with a Windows laptop, with Windows laptops, I would use it for like 4 hours, 4 to 6 hours, or whatever. Then it would need to be charged. But with this, even on like smart standby, a Windows laptop, it would start like the battery would, go low, and then you would not use it for a week, and then it would be dead. But with this, I could go probably even a week, without using it, without shutting it down, just putting it to sleep, and battery still just works. But with the Windows laptop, with the power modes, you put the thing to sleep. You could set up your power plan, put the thing to sleep. You would have it sleep all day. You wouldn't use it. Then it would go into hibernation mode. But sometimes with the newer laptop, like my ThinkPad, it had smart standby and it never worked correctly. When it would be time for it to go to hibernation mode, which I didn't even like in the first place. When it would go to hibernate, it just wouldn't even go to hibernate. It would skip that step and it would just shut down. Which, what the fuck, man? I didn't even tell it to shut down. It just shut down. Like, it didn't make any sense. Oh, yeah, and another thing. Yeah, I'll get to that, too. But it just shut down. Like, I didn't tell the thing to shut down. It just did. With this, I could just put it to sleep. I tell it to go to sleep by closing the lid or going to sleep. Brody, if you call me fucking again, I will fucking rage. That's another thing. But, every fucking time I want to fucking record, it's fucking crazy. I don't know how, I don't understand how you're that fucking bored to listen to, fuck this shit. But anyway, what was I saying? Now I lost my train of thought because of him. But if you with the Mac laptop, God damn it! God damn it, Brody! Shut the fuck up! Every fucking time! I don't want to listen to a fucking album right now! God damn. Okay, if you shut the Mac laptop, if you shut down the if you put this laptop to sleep, it would just go to sleep. Like, it wouldn't shut down because I didn't tell it to shut down. It would just go right to sleep, and you wouldn't have to worry about it. But with the Windows laptop, it would oh my gosh, that stupid fucking man. But with the Windows laptop, it would just shut down. You would tell it to go to sleep, then it would try and go to hibernation mode, but if it didn't go to hibernate, then it would shut down. And that's one more thing I want to talk about too, is that another thing with Windows is that Windows just pretty much just does whatever it wants. Like, there was one day I booted up my desktop, it just opened up a tab in Microsoft Edge. I didn't even have Microsoft Edge set as my web browser, or as my default web browser, and it opened up a tab with the new features that it updated with. But with Mac, it never does any of that stuff. It just works. So, yeah. Oh my gosh, I can't get over that fucking crash out. But that's my whole deep dive experience on Mac OS and why I decided to switch. In my second video, I will go over my history, or what led me up to this point of switching to Mac OS. And in my third video of the series, I will talk about the whole history of Windows, or the whole recent history of Windows. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Like it, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. And I will see you guys in the next one.
Cover full cam, stop recording button.
Bye.